Surprising story from Sports Business Daily that came out yesterday afternoon. The NFL has insisted that the regular season schedule, which usually is issued before the draft, would be out no later than Saturday, May 9. The networks were bracing for it to land on Thursday, May the 7th. Now that the draft is over, which consumes so much focus from the front office, from the commissioner, etc. Now that the draft is done, the commissioner is giving it a fresh look, guys, because there are factions in the league office and also people within the ticket industry, specifically the resellers, who are saying, hang on a second. We can't schedule these games because once we start selling and reselling tickets, we put ourselves into a potential mess if there aren't fans, and we don't know when games are going to be able to be played, and maybe we just need a few more weeks to have a better understanding of where everything is going to be come September. So all of a sudden, there's a debate, and there's a delay, and there's a possibility that we will not have a schedule by May 9. That is now up in the air. But, you know, for a league that has managed to avoid significant, tangible, negative impacts of the coronavirus pandemic, this one could be the biggest one. Yeah, the offseason programs aren't going to happen, but okay. But this, delaying the schedule deeper into May and who knows how long after that, that really, to me, is a sign that this situation has gotten the NFL's attention, Peter, and maybe they want to do some more planning for contingencies before they actually pull the sheet off of the schedule.
Well, Mike, I'm fairly convinced, and I've hinted at this in my column, but I'm fairly convinced now that the NFL is not only making contingency schedules if they have to play 12 games, 14 games, because, as I've said, the NFL could play a 12-game schedule with no buys and start on October 18th. And keep the schedule exactly on course as to what it was. But I believe the NFL is doing something else. I believe that they are also creating a schedule that could start later, that could start, let's say, 4 weeks later, and then could push the Super Bowl 3 or 4 weeks later, depending on if they have a bye and all that. And I think that's the one thing we should be focused on. The fact that if the NFL is determined to play a 16-game schedule, there's no reason why they can't play the Super Bowl at the end of February instead of at the beginning of February.
Yeah, it's very interesting. First off, I don't know how I agree. I mean, with the NFL here, you got to delay the schedule release. You can't set out anything concrete right now as the end of April. Again, there's just too much unknown in our world right now and what's going on with this virus and where it's going to go. And all those other issues have to be ironed out before I think you can start worrying about, the particular details of an NFL schedule. And, I can't imagine. It seems like we're going to have to get through the month of May, at least here, to have a little bit better picture of which way our culture and civilization just in general is going to go here throughout the summer into the early fall. So, again, I know, and, I know, Mike, we've been privy to information, and of course, Peter is too, because Peter knows everybody, but the NFL is coming up with a lot of different contingency plans. And I'll go again to something I've been saying. I just don't think, and the evidence again this weekend, I don't think as many NFL people are as concerned with this virus as the rest of the world. We just saw football players I know want to just play football. They don't care, and I understand that. I said that to Mike before. If I was 26 years old, back in my prime, I'd have been sitting there going, oh, well, I'm not worried about this COVID-19. I just want to play football. I'll stay away from my mom and my dad and my grandma and grandpa so I won't get them sick or do anything like that. But I want to play football. And I think there is an overwhelming calling for that throughout the NFL, even with coaches in the front office. So I'm just interested to see where it goes, but I totally understand them delaying the schedule release with the unknowns of the world right now.
The key is coming up with a clear strategy for who gets tested, how often they get tested, where they go when the workday ends, where they can potentially be re-exposed or exposed for the first time, and then test them again. The testing is going to be the key. And this is a point that DeMaurice Smith, the NFLPA executive director, makes very, very astutely, and I think so far it has been overlooked by fans and by the media. The idea, and this was mentioned by Dr. Anthony Fauci in comments to the New York Times, without widespread testing, it's not going to work. And you can't have sports hog all the testing. Right now, we continue to be, and this is one of the things that is the most mind-boggling to me about the entire pandemic.
Mind-boggling.
We continue to not have enough tests. So how can you, Peter, how can you have all of the testing that the NFL would need of all the players, all the coaches, all the trainers, anybody who walks into that petri dish that is a locker room, how can you have testing for them as often as you need it when the general public doesn't have access to it? That is, to me, the biggest impediment to getting the football season on track. And until they solve that, it's going to be hard to implement any of these plans.
I've been saying exactly that for the last week or 10 days. The only way the NFL can play the games, the only way that the NFLPA will allow the membership to play games is if they do enough testing so that they know whether every person who sets foot on a field, whether there are fans there or not, every person who sets foot on a field, medical people, players, coaches, staff, whatever it takes. And Mike, let's just say that there are 200 people in an organization that would be necessary to the functioning of an organization to play a game. I'm inventing that. I don't know what it is. It might be 150, but let's just say it's 200. You're going to have to test those people at least twice a week, okay? And you're going to have to get the test back same day, obviously. So if you testing those guys and doing it every week, then that means that each team in the NFL is taking up 400 tests per week on average, okay? And then if you multiply that times 32 teams, basically, then what you're getting is a monstrous number of tests. And the NFL is going to have to answer to the people who say, hey, wait a second. States can't get enough tests. We can't get enough tests. These people can't get enough tests. And the only way the NFL will be able to do it, Mike, I believe, is if Donald Trump or whoever is going to be in charge of this, Anthony Fauci, says, okay, we give you special dispensation, all right, to go out independently and purchase from some lab in China, whatever it is, 50,000 tests to use during the season so that every NFL team will be able to play games. And I don't know, 50 or 100,000. That is the only way it can happen. And if they can't get that dispensation, I don't know what the NFL is going to do.
Yeah, and D. Smith is the only one within the NFL bubble that has articulated that thought. And it could be that others have not because they don't like where that trail of logic ultimately leads, because it is going to take something Herculean like that. And there's still going to be a glaring disparity between the NFL and the rest of the public that desperately needs the testing as well.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.